Hello students, welcome to AriserTalent. As you know, we are studying very important chapter, that is life process. In my previous lecture, I have already discussed about the respiration. Now we are going to start a new topic, that is transportation. Okay, so this is the very important process in the living beings. Fine. So what is that transportation? Transportation means whatever the substances are synthesized or absorbed in one part of the body, they are carried from one part to the another part, and this process is known as transportation. So let's write, what is transportation? The movement of or thus we can say the process of carrying synthesized or absorbed food from one part of the body to the another part. Okay, let me change it. The process of carrying synthesized or absorbed food in one part. Okay, the food which is synthesized or absorbed in one part, so if it is carried from one part to the another part, that is known as transportation. So what is the definition? The process of carrying synthesized or absorbed food from one part to another part of the body. Okay, absorb food from the one part to the other part of the body, and this process is known as transportation. Okay, we all eat many different types of foods, so whatever the food we are eating or we do the respiration, okay, so whatever food is absorbed during that process of digestion and that nutrients are carried from one part to the another part, that is known as transportation. So is it clear to you all that what is the meaning of transportation? Meaning of transportation is here that carrying nutrients or synthesized or absorbed food from one part of the body to the another part of the body. Clear? So here we are going to talk about the transportation in unicellular as well as in the multicellular. If we talk about the unicellular organisms, so we all know that all the functions of the life processes are performed by the single cell only, because they are unicellular. Okay, as the organism is made up of one cell, so all the life processes like respiration, digestion, okay, absorption, excretion, all those, and transportation, all those life processes will be performed by the single cell. So here in the unicellular organism, the process of transportation is done by the diffusion. Okay, so here we can mention transportation in unicellular organism is done by single cell by the process by diffusion. Okay, so thus we can say in the unicellular organisms all the life processes are done by the single cell, and if we talk about the transportation, then in the unicellular organism transportation is done by the process of diffusion or by exocytosis or endocytosis. Okay, so let me mention specially by the endocytosis and exocytosis. Fine, but if we talk about multicellular organism, So in the multicellular organism, as the organism carries many cells, it contains many cells. So here the transportation is carried by the transport system. Okay, these, as the organism is made up of many cells, so here it contains a transport system. This transport system helps in the process of transportation. Okay, so let me mention, transportation is done by transport system. Okay, so here in the multicellular organism, we are going to talk about the transportation in plants as well as transportation in animals. Okay, so now we will talk about the transportation in plants and transportation in animals. Because plants and animals both are multicellular organism, so here we have to study the transportation in plants and transportation in animals. Clear? So if we talk about the plants, then transportation in plants is generally done by two methods. What are they? Generally ascent of sap, and another is translocation. Okay, and if we talk about the transportation in animals, then it is done by the circulation. Fine. So let me talk about first about the transportation in plants. First of all, we are going to talk about transportation in plants. Okay. If we talk about the plants, then transportation, the process of transportation in plants is carried by the vascular system. Okay, and vascular system consists what? It consists two types of tissues, that are xylem and phloem. So let me mention, in plants, transportation is done is carried by vascular system, which is present in the root, stem and leaves. Present in the roots, stem and leaves. Okay. And if we talk about the vascular system, then vascular system has two types of tissues. What are they? Have two types of tissues. Generally, they are xylem and phloem. Okay, so these two tissues are responsible for the transportation of water and minerals, and as well as transportation of food. Fine. So here in this chapter, we have to talk about the transportation in plants. Now we will talk about these two special vascular tissues, which are known as xylem and phloem. Xylem helps in the transportation of water and minerals, but phloem helps in the transportation of food materials. Clear? So thus this process of transportation of water and minerals in the plants, which is carried by the xylem, is known as ascent of sap, and the transportation of food material, which is carried by the phloem, is known as translocation. Clear? So let's talk about them in the detail. It was general introduction that transportation in plants is generally carried by the vascular tissues. These are xylem and phloem. Now we will talk about the kinds of transportation. Okay, so if we talk about the kinds of transportation, then there is two kinds of transportation in the plants. One is transportation of water and minerals. Okay, and next is transportation of food material. Okay, so as I told you that the transportation of water and minerals is carried by the xylem and phloem helps in the transportation of food material. So let me clear you this topic here. Let's go with the diagram. Yes. First of all, we are going to talk about transportation of water and minerals. Okay, so generally this process is start from the roots itself. Okay, so what happens here, we all know that roots of the plants are fixed into the soil, so they will absorb the water and minerals which are present in the soil. Now what happens, look at the picture. Here we all can see that the water generally which is found in the soil in the soluble form, it will be absorbed by the root hairs. Okay, so this water which is absorbed by the root hairs, generally xylems are present here, and then this water is absorbed by the xylem and then it is carried to the different parts of the plant by the root pressure. Okay, generally root pressure is the process which occurs in the herbs, which are the small plants. Okay, and generally in the tall plants, that water which moves to the different parts of the cell, that is carried by the cohesion pressure or transportation pressure. Okay, transportation pull. So here we are going to talk about the path of sap. Now what is the path of sap? Sap means juice or fluid. Which kind of fluid we are talking here? We are talking here about the water and minerals. So what is the actual path of this movement, the movement of the water and minerals? Here we can see that water which is present here in the roots is absorbed by the root hair. Okay, then from root hair it goes to the xylem and it is absorbed by it and it goes to the higher upper parts of the plants, and generally this process is carried by the only in the herbs, which are the small plants, and in the tall plants the other pressure, other process is done, which is cohesion pressure. Okay, so here now we are going to talk about the, first of all we are going to talk about transportation of water and minerals. Okay, as I have shown these things in the diagram, we will explain you again. First, let's talk about the transportation of water and mineral. Transportation of water and mineral. Okay. So this process of transportation of water and minerals is generally followed by the three processes. First of all is absorption of water and minerals. Here we can see the first process is that absorption of water and minerals. So here we can mention generally it is followed by the three processes. One is absorption of water and minerals. Okay, then once they are absorbed, then the another process is the transportation of water and minerals to the upward direction. Okay, which is also known as ascent of sap. Next process is ascent of sap, or it is also known as upward movement of water and minerals. Here you can see in the diagram that the first process is absorption of water and minerals. Then whatever the water and minerals are absorbed by these root hairs, they will be carried to the different parts, and this process is known as ascent of sap or upward movement of water and minerals. Okay, or upward movement of water and minerals. Okay. So once the water and mineral are absorbed by the different parts or are transported to the different parts, the another third process will be transpiration. Okay. Transpiration means loss of water. Okay. So third process will be transpiration. Now come to the diagram, let me explain you, then we will go with the details. First part is absorption of water and minerals. Means in the plant, the transportation of water and minerals takes place in the three forms. Okay, one is absorption and water and minerals. Okay, then whatever water and minerals are absorbed by the roots, then they are carried to the different parts by the process of ascent of sap, and when the water reaches to all the parts of the plant, then the loss of water take place. That process is known as transpiration. Okay, so this is the complete process of transportation in the plant. So let's start with the first step, that is absorption of water and minerals. Here we can see that roots of the plant are fixed into the soil. So these roots will absorb the water and mineral which are present in the soluble form in the soil. Now first of all we will talk about this water. The water is absorbed by the root hairs. Okay, and then it goes to the epidermis, epidermis to the cortex, then cortex to the vessel, and then to the tracheids. Fine. So thus water reaches to the xylem. If we talk about the minerals, then generally, first of all let me explain you that the water generally moves from the higher concentration to the lower concentration, and if we talk about the mineral salt which are present there in the soil, then they will move from the higher partial pressure to the lower partial pressure. Okay, now then they are carried from the root epidermis which is present at the root apex. Fine. So thus water and minerals reach to the xylem. Fine. This is the complete process of absorption of water and minerals. Come to the first point. So first of all, absorption of water and minerals is done by this process. This is done by roots of the plants, of the land plants. Okay. So water present in the soil is absorbed by the root hairs, then it goes to epidermis, to cortex. Okay, epidermis to cortex, cortex to endodermis. Okay, then from endodermis it goes to the xylem vessel, and from xylem vessel it goes to the tracheids. From endodermis to xylem vessel, and xylem vessel to tracheids. Okay, Thus, we can say that water which is absorbed by the root hair finally reaches to the xylem by these processes. Okay, first it goes to cell, then it goes to the epidermis, epidermis to cortex, cortex to the endodermis, endodermis to xylem vessel, and then from there to tracheids. This process is known as lateral transportation. Okay, this process is called lateral transportation. Okay. So this was all about the absorption of water. Generally, water moves from the higher concentration to the lower concentration. Now we will talk about the absorption of mineral. This was all about the water. Now we will talk about the mineral. So mineral salts which are present in the soil are absorbed by the root epidermis. Okay. So these are they move from the higher partial pressure to the lower partial pressure. Okay, so first of all we are going to talk about minerals. Okay, mineral salts move from higher partial pressure to lower partial pressure along with concentration gradients by passive transport. We already have studied about the passive and active transport in class 9th. Okay, so thus we can say mineral salts move from higher partial pressure to the lower partial pressure along with the concentration gradients by passive transport. Okay, so thus water and mineral salts actually reach to the xylems, and then from xylem they reach to the upper parts of the plant by the ascent of sap. Okay, so here we can mention then the process finally the water and minerals reach to xylem vessel. Okay, xylem vessels and tracheids, and from xylem they move upward by the process of ascent of sap, Okay, so here we studied how the water and minerals come to the picture. Here as I have shown you that the root absorb water and minerals. So actually how the process take place, I explained you that how the water and minerals are absorbed by the root hairs and then they reach to the xylem. Then we will talk about the next process, how these water and minerals move upward by the process of ascent of sap. So here as I told you that transportation of in plants generally takes place by the three processes: absorption of water and minerals, ascent of sap, and transpiration. So in this lecture we studied about the absorption in water and minerals. In our next lecture we will talk about the next process, that how the sap reaches to the different parts of the plant, that is ascent of sap, and then other process transpiration. Till then, take care. Thank you.